Great, welcome. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for an interview with Congressman Mike Thompson, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Yolo County. I'm Kathleen Stack, co-membership director of the Yolo League. To begin our event, Congressman Thompson has requested that we all join him in the Pledge of Allegiance. Congressman Thompson, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Thompson. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan grassroots organization, was founded in 1920, just six months before the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. Our local chapter, the League of Women Voters of Yolo County, was officially formed in January through the unification of Davis and Woodland Leagues. The Davis League had been active since 1957, and the Woodland League marked its 50th anniversary in 2024. Together, we bring a strong legacy of civic engagement and are expanding our reach to welcome members from across Yolo County, including both cities and rural communities. The League does not support or oppose political parties or candidates. We work to protect and expand voting rights and promote informed participation through education, advocacy, and litigation when necessary, as guided by state and national league principles of fairness, transparency, and civil discourse. We should take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of the Patwin people. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands. This event is being broadcast live on Channel 21 by Woodland TV and live streamed on their YouTube channel. A recording will also be available for on-demand viewing. As you arrived, you may have received an index card to submit a question for Congressman Thompson. If you didn't receive one and you'd like to participate, please raise your hand now and a volunteer will bring you a card. I see a hand raised over there to the, thank you. Okay. Guidelines for submitting questions are displayed on the screen. Once you've written your question, please hold on to your card until 4:30. At that time, pass it to the aisle for collection. Our question review team will screen, sort, and prioritize submissions. And please note, we may not have time for all the questions, but we'll do our best. This afternoon's event will follow the format shown on the screen. Our interviewer, Komal Haq, will begin with questions developed by League members. These follow League guidelines and focus on how recent actions by the current administration have affected our county and nation, and Congressman Thompson's role in responding. Komal may ask unscripted follow-up questions to clarify or expand on responses. These will be respectful, neutral, and aligned with the League's commitment to fairness and civil discourse. The League's questions were shared with Congressman Thompson's office 5 days ago to allow time for thoughtful responses. All questions were unbiased and non-leading, and League members could address any community or public policy topics. No subjects were off limits. We'll include a brief 10-minute intermission to give our interviewer, Komal Haq, time to review audience questions and decide how best to incorporate them into the remainder of the program. To maintain a respectful environment, we ask you refrain from applauding or showing reactions during the event. Demonstrations of support or dissent may be disruptive. Anyone causing disruption will be asked to leave. California's 4th Congressional District includes all of Lake and Napa counties, most of Yolo County except West Sacramento, and portions of Solano and Sonoma counties as shown on the screen. Congressman Mike Thompson has represented the district in the U.S. House of Representatives since 1998. He serves on the House Committee on Ways and Means, where he is the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Tax and a senior member of the Health Subcommittee. Komal Haq is this afternoon's interviewer and co-director of communications for the League of Women Voters of Yolo County. Komal holds a bachelor's in neurobiology, physiology, and behavior from UC Davis and works as a quality assurance supervisor for a nonprofit healthcare organization. Komal, I hand the floor to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and for participating civically. I want to extend a warm welcome to Congressman Thompson. We appreciate the opportunity to host this event and your time in discussing how recent executive actions may be affecting Yolo County and the region. We look forward to hearing more about your work in Congress and your perspectives on current federal policies and their local and national impact. Would you like to say anything before we jump into the questions?
Well, I'll just say thank you to the League for hosting this today. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to the Senior Center for the great venue. And I just take one point of personal privilege, and I want to do a brief introduction. Trevor from Senator Adam Schiff's office is here. And I want to do that introduction because every time I turn around in our district, he's been around. And so Adam has made a real commitment to rural California, Northern California, and to our district. And I just think we should all be appreciative to have a U.S. Senator who cares enough about us to ensure that his staff is here when he can't be. And with that,
all right, we can jump in, of course. So our opening question is about, since the inauguration, a number of executive orders and policy proposals have been introduced. Some of these have progressed to implementation, while others have not been pursued or are facing legal challenges. Could you identify the top 3 which would affect us economically here in Yolo County? And how would you, or are you and your congressional colleagues addressing these orders and proposals?
excellent question, most certainly timely. And as a matter of fact, Congressman Matsui and I just held a hearing today in West Sacramento covering these issues and others that would affect our area and would affect the country. So it's all very, very timely and all very frightening. I think I would rank them in regard to healthcare, because he's done both executive orders and made policy proposals dealing with healthcare. And the policy proposals are found in the legislation that the House Republicans just passed last week. And it's enough, I think, to frighten everyone. It's part of this reconciliation bill, which is a big tax bill. And in order to pay for some of the tax cuts in the bill, they take a pretty good cleaver to health care. All of the projections are that the $880 billion that they would cut from Medicaid would end health care coverage for about 14 million people. Actually, I shouldn't exaggerate, I should be very factual. 13.7 million people. And they've also cut $330 billion from USDA. Just about all of that will be in food security programs, most specifically the SNAP program. And to emphasize how much it impacts our local area, not only will kids go hungry, but there are a number of farmers, right here in Yolo County, there's a bunch of them,
who do farm to school programs. So the kids get to eat fresh, healthy produce, and those programs will probably go away. Now the health stuff, it's all tied to Medicaid, and Medicaid in California is Medi-Cal, and everybody isn't on Medi-Cal in California, but it makes up about a third of the healthcare funding for healthcare in our state. And the healthcare system that we have now can't sustain a 30% cut. So hospitals, clinics, and everyone in between have told me that one of two things happen. Either they close or they severely reduce their services in order to keep the doors open. And that impacts all of us. Even if you're on Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, if you have a pocket full of gold and you want to buy your own insurance, it's going to impact you. So if this stuff goes through, 13.7 million people lose their health care. And if you take your insurance policy or your personal wealth and you show up at the hospital door when you're ill or when you're injured, you better pray that the cuts they made in order to keep the doors open aren't the healthcare providers that you need. That's how important this is going to be. For a rural area, as we all know, healthcare is really difficult and it's expensive. And the rural healthcare facilities will be the first to go. And that means people in rural areas won't have access to quality, affordable health care. So they'll wait longer to seek medical care. And when that happens, you can go from needing preventive care, which is pretty cheap, to needing acute care, which is very expensive, and you're going to have to travel further in order to get it. And then the other thing that is within all of this is that the people who are injured or people who are ill, that doesn't go away. That's still here. So if you become injured or ill and you go to the hospital, they're not going to turn you down. You go to the emergency room, they're going to treat you. And what happens is that becomes what they call an uncompensated care. So they provide the care, they don't get the money, which further impacts their financial situation, which leads to further problems for healthcare. So I'd say healthcare is number one. In our area, the agricultural cuts are something that everyone should be worried about. You know, they cut a ton of research, and UC Davis wasn't exempt from that. And you all know that at UC Davis, they do a lot of research in cancer research, spina bifida, and memory loss, Alzheimer's research. So research doesn't, you can't start and stop research. You flip the switch to off on research. Researchers go other places, research assistants go other places, you get backed up, and to restart that is very, very difficult, and it sets you back a long, long way. Yeah. And then I guess the third one I would mention would be in this bill, they cut all of the renewable energy provisions that we passed in the last Congress in the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's personal to me because that was my legislation. I wrote it was both climate change / renewable energy legislation. I wrote that, and it's been very, very successful. We used the tax code to incentivize renewable energy development, and it has created 400,000 new jobs in the United States of America, and about $400 billion of investment in manufacturing on our shore. And if they strip that, that all goes away. And I would argue that it goes away at exactly the wrong time. The demand for energy is literally over the moon right now, especially with Bitcoin and AI. They're big energy users, and we need more energy, not less energy. And as I said, it's been successful. Jobs, manufacturing, and 93% of all of the new energy from 2022 until now has been because of wind, solar, and battery. And so that all would take a huge hit. So those are probably the three issues that come to mind.
They're pretty big issues. And so I'm going to touch upon healthcare first. With healthcare, the proposed cuts being mentioned, what are you and your colleagues proposing in your response to these changes, and how can we as a community maintain support for the programs that are in our community to see our community be healthy and thrive?
Well, just about anything that you asked me about that's going on with this administration and how are we dealing with it, the answer is going to be pretty close to the same in every instance. You know, it's kind of a three-front battle. One is fighting it in the Congress, and that means everything. That means everything from writing letters, introducing legislation, participating in hearings. The bill, the reconciliation bill that I just mentioned, if you have been following that, that bill was passed last week, literally in the middle of the night. They scheduled those hearings for late in the day, East Coast time, and the committees, I don't know how, there were three main committees, I don't know how long the Ag Committee went. The Commerce Committee, Energy and Commerce Committee, which has Medicaid in its jurisdiction, they went for, I believe it was 24 and a half hours, nonstop. My committee, the Ways and Means Committee, we went for, I believe it was 17 or 18 and a half hours. We debated 37 Democratic amendments, everything from my amendment to strip out them doing away with the renewable energy stuff, to the health care cuts, and everything in between. They even had an amendment in there making it easier for people to be able to buy silencers to put on the end of your rifle or pistol. So it was pretty frightening. So we went literally around the clock and made them vote on these amendments, which is important, you know, down the road. It may not have stopped, well, it didn't stop them. They rejected every amendment and they passed the bill. But now there's a record where they not only voted for the bill, but they voted against the amendments that would have saved programs in their own districts. And that's important because we have a midterm election right around the corner, and it's going to be important for voters to see who voted how. And then after we did all of our work, the end results went to the Rules Committee. And I think they went 17 or 15 hours as well. And that was sad because I had amendments, so I had to sit through all of that too. So I sat through all the Ways and Means and then all the rules, and then went to the floor, and we were on the floor all night when we voted for, well, not when we voted for it, but when it was voted on and they passed it. So we're not slowing down a bit on making sure everybody knows what it is they're trying to do, the bills that they're passing, the amendments that they're rejecting. And so that's the fight in the House. The second place where we're dealing with these things are the courts. And you've probably followed this. There's a lawsuit on probably any question you ask me. There's probably at least one lawsuit that's been filed. I think there's been 255 lawsuits that have been filed against a number of the things that this administration is doing. There's been some success. There's, I think, 155 of those have had favorable outcomes to this point. And that doesn't mean that they won't get changed going forward, but it's certainly an important step to go through the court and have that ruling, even if they are overruled at some other time. And I would bet you that 255 number that I knew about yesterday probably has grown today. So there's probably more lawsuits. As a matter of fact, I know there's more because public Broadcasting just filed a lawsuit today to stop them from cutting public broadcasting. And then the third place is in the court of public opinion. That's why it's so important to do events such as this, the hearing that Doris and I did this morning, the rallies that are being done up and down the state, any type of town hall meetings. I think I've had, in the last 4 months, I've done more town hall meetings than I can remember doing. And I'm pretty prolific in the town hall meeting space. I do a lot of town halls, and I think I've done 17 or 18 in the last 4 months. So it's all important because the community has to know what's going on. And if the community understands it and the community is vocal about that, it's going to have an impact. There is nothing more articulate and nothing more effective than the voice of one's constituents. So if my Republican colleagues are hearing from their constituents how bad this is and how it's going to harm their district, they're going to be more apt to side with Democrats to vote against it. There was a newspaper article this morning, and the headline was, GOP members of Congress face a buzzsaw from their constituents over the Trump tax policy. So that means it's working. People in all districts are sounding off about that, and it's important.
So what I'm hearing is everyone should get on the phones, do postcards. When there's a call to action or there's a bill that's up for debate, they really need to get involved.
March in the streets, make phone calls, write letters, go to your service clubs in the community and talk about it. And it's pretty bipartisan in our district. There's certain parts of our district, certain communities in our district that whatever this guy wants to do, they're going to be for. But I'm hearing in every county of our district from Democrats, Republicans, and independents that they're afraid, they're worried, they're upset, they're very upset, and I'm hearing it from everyone. Democrats, Republicans, the business community is concerned. This tariff nonsense is just causing all kinds of problems, not only for consumers who are having to deal with the price increases that these bring around, but the uncertainty it causes for business. And I'm not the only one in this room. I would bet that everybody in this room has heard from at least one person in your lifetime growing up, one person in the business community that said, hey, just tell us what the rules are and let us alone. We'll be fine. Don't change the rules every 5 minutes. And that's what's happening now.
And there is a lot of uncertainty. And in our region, we have about $690 million that come via our agriculture industry. And that agriculture industry depends on immigrant labor, with over 7,000 agricultural workers in Yolo County, many undocumented. Recently, enforcement measures have raised concerns amongst families, schools, religious groups, healthcare providers, and in addition, delays and uncertainties around tariffs, like you mentioned, have made it difficult for local farmers to plan confidently. From your perspective, how do current immigration enforcement policies affect agriculture communities like Yolo County, and what role do you see Congress playing in addressing these?
Well, we already know the impact that it's having. It's hard enough to get workers, without this extra hurdle being put out. It's expensive. Agricultural entities in our district, they try and abide by the law. They go to great lengths using the H-2 visa process to bring workers in. It's expensive to do that. They recognize that the labor, the vineyard workers, the field workers are incredibly important to the success of their business, to our livelihoods. There's a great benefit that we all enjoy because of the ag community. Even if we're not farmers, we all eat, and there's nothing more beautiful than waking up in the morning and looking out across the agricultural field, and so that's a benefit that we gain from this. If you can't get workers, that stuff starts to go away. And there's been a number of things that this administration has done that's causing big problems. The immigration stuff and this push to deport as many people as possible is causing problems. The tariff stuff has just been terrible. It's hurting all aspects of agriculture in our district. California's #1 export partner for wine is Canada. And there's not a bottle of California or US wine on any shelf in Canada, nor on a website in Canada. It's gone. They've taken it all off. And at a time when the grape and wine community is struggling anyway, this further exacerbates that. And as far as being able to do something about it, it's a tough one. Because in addition to what we're seeing is what we're hearing. This is an all-out attack in the form of a wedge being driven in our community to try and make workers, immigrant workers, evil people. And we've heard it from the White House about how they're all rapists and drug addicts and murderers and gang members. And that causes huge problems as well. And it makes the immigrant community feel very unsafe, very withdrawn. And when that happens, that impacts all of us, farmers and non-farmers alike, because if it's an immigrant that is a witness to a crime, they're less apt to be willing to work with law enforcement to solve that. If an immigrant is a victim of a crime, they're less apt to work with law enforcement in getting that resolved. And that just doesn't create a good and safe community. And even in the best of times, immigration reform, as I'm sure you all know, is very, very difficult. And we've tried a number of times. When George W. Bush was president, there was an opportunity to get immigration reform, and it blew up in the 11th hour. And then fast forward to the Obama administration, we got close again, and then again it blew up. And then in the Biden administration, we had a bipartisan immigration reform measure that was very, very close, and the guy running for president at the time, who's now in the Oval Office, if you recall, he stepped in and said, "Don't pass that bill, it'll make it harder for me to be elected." And that blew it up again. And we've done different things. We've had comprehensive immigration reform that we've tried to pass, and when that didn't work, a group of us from California split up different immigration policy, and different people took different parts of the package. My part of the package was immigration reform for veterans and their family. And it's based on legislation that I wrote a few years ago that would expedite citizenship for an immigrant who served in the military. And I was telling somebody called me the other day, and who was a Republican from our district, said, "We've got to fix this immigration stuff. Tell me who I need to call, and I'll just call them. I'm sure we can get some things done." And I said, "Well, it's not quite that easy." And I told him about my armed services component bill. And he said, "Well, that's a no-brainer." He said, "Every Republican will vote for that." And he says, "Give me some names, I'll call them." I said, "I'll give you all the names you want, but just know, in the last 2 Congresses, I have not been able to get a Republican co-author on the bill." So that's how divided it is. These are people who put on the uniform, served our country, put their life on the line for our country.
You talked about how each time it got close, but then it blew up. What do you think might be a future strategy to make it to the finish line?
I'll put in another plug for Adam Schiff. We had an event in my district. Adam came out and met with a group of farmers in Napa County, and it was ag folks. And as you can imagine, immigration came up, And Adam said he's been talking to Lindsey Graham, and I tease him, call him the Lindsey whisperer. He said he's been whispering to Lindsey Graham that, listen, George Bush tried it and couldn't do it. Barack Obama tried it and couldn't do it. You need to talk to the president and tell him here's an opportunity for him to be able to do something that Biden, Obama, and Bush couldn't do. So I'm putting my wager on that.
That's great. I'm going to pivot a little bit just because I want to touch upon some Social Security concerns the community has. The Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, has requested access to Social Security records, which include personal information such as medical and banking details of over 67 million people. The department has also proposed changes that may affect how benefits are calculated, how Social Security offices function, and how people can get help. How would you approach the future of Social Security programs? And what role do you see for public input and engagement in that area, and how to safeguard these protections?
Well, let me tell you, I've been very, very worried about Social Security under this administration, and most certainly under this DOGE, the DOGE bros, and them having access to our financial information, both through Social Security through the IRS. And then also our health records as well. This is very private data that they shouldn't be able to get anywhere close to. Social Security has been the bedrock of retirement security for as long as any of us have been around. It's worked well. No one's ever missed a check. There's never been a late check. And we need to keep it going from now on. We need to do everything we can to strengthen it, not tear it up. And basically, that's what they've done. Today, my concern was even heightened when I read the reports of the alleged drug use by Elon Musk. I think that's frightening, that if any of this is accurate, the fact that somebody who was obviously has addiction problems is using drugs, accessing our Social Security, our IRS data, or our medical data. I think this is something that should be investigated to find out who got what, and is this alleged addiction problem making this even worse than it already is. So back to before the drug information got out, I think it's important to recognize that not only is Social Security retirement security for those who are receiving it, it's also security for survivors, both widows and widowers, and also dependent kids. You know, if parents are killed or die, their kids have access to Social Security benefits. And what that does is it allows whomever is taking care of them and raising them to have the resources they need to do that. And then one group that really gets left out of the discussion is everybody else in the community. Because everybody in Yolo County, on Social Security or not, benefits from Social Security. Yolo County gets about $59 million a month in Social Security checks into our county. And most of that money is spent locally and spent quickly in the community. These are checks received by mostly retired people or disabled people. The money is put in a bank account. It's used to buy food, pay utilities, pay rent, whatever it might be. But those $59 million every month multiply across our community. And so that's important for all of us. And it's about $268 million a month for our whole district. And that's a big chunk of change for a congressional district. And if these guys are successful privatizing Social Security, and you know, in the good times, I suspect you'll get your check, but in the bad times, what happens? And if it's a private sector entity that's running this thing, in the bad times, they're not going to forego their piece of the pie. It's going to be the rest of us that don't benefit from that. And one other thing that I'll mention, and Martin O'Malley, the former governor of Maryland, was the last Social Security administrator, and he's coming out, and I don't remember the date, I can get it to you, but he's coming out to our district at my request to talk about some of these things. But it was really interesting, when he took over, the telephone wait time for Social Security was 1 hour and 30 minutes. So if you called up, this is before this administration closed all the Social Security offices and caused people to leave and have fired some individuals in Social Security. So it was 1 hour and 30 minutes. When O'Malley, that's when he took over, when he left, the telephone wait time was 12 minutes. Now, as I understand it, it's 1 hour and 45 minutes. So they're not making it run smoother, more efficiently, or more effectively. I think they're making a bigger mess out of it than when they got it.
And so, can we safeguard against these measures the administration is taking, of firing and reducing staffing? Is there a way to implement technology in there? How can we make it more efficient per this administration?
Well, I think that there's always room to make all of these agencies more efficient. Social Security, IRS. IRS is so understaffed and under-equipped that they've had a terrible time. There's a tax gap, the amount of money that's owed and the amount that they collect. And that tax gap is largely made up of money owed by extremely wealthy people who have a cadre of lawyers and accountants that the IRS employees were never equipped to be able to deal with. And we made some changes in that. We provided, I think it was $60 billion that we gave to the IRS to close that gap, to get more equipment, to hire people who are more expert in the intricacies of very complex tax law. And you all remember it because the other side, the criticism was the Democrats are hiring armed IRS agents to kick in your door. And you know, I'm sure the IRS has armed agents, but that's not what that money went for. But we need to be making investments in the talent that's needed, the people who have the expertise in complicated tax law. We need to make the investment in the technology that's needed so Social Security and IRS and the other agencies can keep up with modernization of technology and be able to best deal with individuals. But and you all know this, everybody here works or used to work, and if you decided in your business that you were going to make improvements to be more efficient, you were going to buy better computers, you wouldn't first fire everybody in hopes that you're going to bring these new computers on. You know, and quite honestly, if you were looking for efficiencies, you would bring in accountants and auditors. You wouldn't bring in programmers. So I think these guys are up to mischief, and I don't see anything good that's going to come of that.
Are there any strategies or plans that are proposed to kind of check what's happening in the administration with these kind of federal agencies?
Yeah, we have inspectors generals in all of these agencies, and as you know, they fired all of those. And that's the other thing you wouldn't do if you're looking for efficiency. You wouldn't fire the oversight person. But again, it's the same thing. We're doing everything we can in the Congress. We're doing everything we can in the courts, and we're making sure everybody knows the problem. And I can tell you that people know the problem in all of these agencies. I get calls every day into one of my 3 offices about Social Security. And I did a town hall last night, and someone got up, I didn't know the person, It was unsolicited, and explained how Will in my office, he called, he'd been working for a year trying to get his Social Security problem resolved, and that he called the office, and Will was able to make that happen. And I have examples in every agency imaginable. We had a legal California U.S. resident who runs a major banking group in our district, who went on an educational travel with a group of other Latinas to Mexico. The federal government made an error on her paperwork, and it took me 4 weeks to get her home. And I just can't believe that that was accidental. I think that they're just making it so difficult for folks. Part of that, self-deport program that they're pushing.
Yes, I recently traveled outside the country and also was worried about re-entry, so.
I had people call me. I had somebody call my office yesterday, and they said, I think it was their daughter, was a legal U.S., was a U.S. citizen, born in the United States, had a passport, and wanted to go someplace, and they were asking me if I thought it was safe, would she have any problem coming home? And, I certainly can't guarantee that there's not going to be any problems. My suggestion to her was have your daughter fill out, whenever any of you have a problem and you need my help, first thing you have to do is fill out a form authorizing me to work on your behalf. So I recommended to this woman that her daughter fill out that form before she leaves, in case there's a problem, and then we can go to bat for her.
That's really good to know. And that form can be found on your website?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think I'm going to squeeze in one.
Notice how I knew exactly who to look at?
I know, I did that too. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question before we break at 4:45. This is concerning the IRS and Homeland Security recently agreeing to share taxpayer information with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE. And this move has raised privacy and civic liberties concerns. Currently, the tax code section 6103 restricts the use of tax returns for purposes authorized by Congress, such as tax administration, the census, and some criminal investigations. And so that in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security recently revoking and later reinstating F1 visa statuses for students across the country, including at UC Davis, in response to public criticism of U.S. policy. All of these kind of give to the same concern of civic liberties, and as a policymaker, how would you ensure the protection of free speech and our civil liberties for individuals who express views critical of the government?
Well, free speech is the bedrock of our democracy and our great republic. It has to be protected, and we have to do everything we can collectively to make sure that that happens. The 6103 provisions that you talked about are, that's not just a throwaway code section line. It's the real deal. Bless you. If you have, if you access information from the IRS and you don't have the authority to do that, you go to prison. I believe it's a 5-year prison term, and it's, I think, $10,000 fine. And in the last Congress, we tried to, in the Ways and Means Committee, we tried to bump that. It was at my suggestion when we were doing 1603 work to increase the amount of time in jail and the financial penalty as well. And it was interesting because everybody on the committee voted for that amendment, Democrats and Republicans. And now they've turned around and they've set that aside because of to let Musk in and to do this shared business with immigration and border security. It's a problem, and it shouldn't be allowed. And we're doing everything we can from Again, Congress, the courts, and the court of public opinion.
And regarding free speech, what can you say to students who are fearful?
Well, I think they have every reason to be fearful. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. But I think we as a community need to stand up and support their right to free speech. Our universities need to stand up and support their right to free speech. The ability to speak freely, as I said, is important. The ability to protest is important. It needs to be done peacefully. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, and you need to be respectful of other people's rights, but you need to be able to speak your beliefs and speak your mind, and our universities need to stand up to it. And it's going to be a real challenge. We're watching that unfold right now, where this administration, this president and his administration are penalizing anybody that's against him. They're penalizing law firms, they're penalizing universities, they're trying to withhold grants, they're trying to claw money back from states that didn't vote for him. And one example that's illustrative of what's going on, in his first term, he signed legislation creating something called BRIC grants. And it's money grant money that goes to communities that are in high fire danger areas to do fire prevention work. And we had 2 counties in our district, Napa and Sonoma, that got a combined $60 million BRIC grant. They already started doing the prevention work, and they clawed that money back. And you know why? We're California, and
Is that allowed?
Pardon me?
Is that allowed?
No, it's not allowed, and that's why there are lawsuits. And that's the other thing to remember. He's gone wild on these orders that he signs, and claiming that he's doing away with the Department of Education with this executive order. And you can't overturn a law with an executive order. And it's the same thing with funding. If the Congress appropriates money and it's signed into law, you can't come back with an executive order and claw that back. And that's in part why a lot of these lawsuits have been happening. But he's trying to do it. Most people think that there's no more Department of Education because of all the press around his signing that executive order. There's still a Department of Education, and there'll be a Department of Education until the Congress of the United States of America passes legislation and a president signs it saying that there's not. Article 1 of the Constitution, the Congress is a separate but equal branch of government. And every time he tries to overstep that, he's going to be hit with lawsuits, and we'll keep pounding away at that. But if this president can do it, the next president can do it. And that's not what our great country is built on. It's not what our democracy stands for, and it's a danger to our republic.
Thank you, Congressman. We are going to break for about 8 minutes, I think, and we'll come back at 4:55.
What are we going to do for 8 minutes?
I'm going to drink some water, use the restroom. I'm going to listen to questions. But if you'd like some water, please do.
While we're getting seated, someone who had asked me a question made me think. When I was talking about all these cuts that are in this reconciliation bill, someone came up and said, well, why are they cutting $330 billion out of the food program? And you know what the story has been, waste, fraud, abuse. And you also know that we have heard ad nauseum from every Republican that I serve with, and a ton of them across the country, that Democrats spend too much money and we add to the debt, and the debt's out of control, and we need to lower the debt. And we heard that during the markup in Ways and Means, and the all-night markup about how bad the debt was. So all night when they were deficit hawks. No debt, no debt, no debt. But then when they voted for the bill, even with all those cuts, it still didn't cover the 10-year cost of the tax cuts. So it added another, 4.5 trillion dollars to our national debt. And then if you consider that the interest rates we pay on that debt has gone up because of the tariffs and everything that's causing concerns with the economy. So that's going to be about a $5 trillion debt increase in this bill. So it's not the fiscally responsible, we're going to take food out of the mouths of kids and healthcare, the biggest takeaway of healthcare in the history of our country, so we can give people who don't need a tax cut. It's more than that. We're going to do all that stuff, and we're going to add $5 trillion to the national debt.
I'm glad someone came up and asked you that question, and I'm grateful for your answer. So recently, for the big beautiful bill, we had 5 Democratic leaders not vote on it because of either health or death. What are you doing to support younger party leaders cultivating new leadership? And this was an audience question and a great one.
Well, that's been a question that's been asked. Excuse me. There were 2 people who died and didn't vote on it, but it's been pretty debunked in the fact-checking and the media. Had those 2 people not died and been there to vote against it, there were still Republican votes who would have voted for it. We still would have lost the vote. It takes 218 votes to do anything in the House of Representatives. We have, I believe right now with the Jerry Conley death, I think we have 214 Democrats. So we need, with or without the deaths, we're still short. And what we need to do is be able to convince constituents in some of those Republican districts that they need to ramp up the pressure on their Republican to join with the Democrats to vote the right way on these bills. As far as younger members, I'm all for younger members. I'm a mentor to a lot of them. But I got to tell you, for every old member who somebody might think ought to take a powder, I can give you 2 young people that need to take a powder too. Marjorie Taylor Greene was pretty young. Lauren Babbitt from Bella? She's pretty young. So
that's fair. So how do you propose engaging politically savvy and engaged and constituent caring young leadership?
Good question. And I think my office and I do a good job at that at the local level. You also need to remember that House leadership, Democratic House leadership, is very young. Keem Jeffries, Kathleen Clark, Pete Aguilar. That's a new generation of legislators, and they are running the Democratic side of the House. I do a couple of things. Number one, I do a lot of internships. I have interns in all 3 of my district offices, and I have interns in my Washington office. Most often, it's high school students at the district level, college students at the Washington, D.C. level. Many of these people go on to be in public office. I've had 3 staff people, young staff people in our district who've gone on to elected office. 2 of them are still in office. Roberta Hermosillo in Sonoma ran my Sonoma office for a number of years, and she is the first Latina to ever have been elected to the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. And then Belia Ramos, who was in my Napa office, became the first Latina to be elected to the Napa County Board of Supervisors, where she serves today with 4 other women supervisors. This is an all 5 women supervisor Napa County Board of of Supervisors. Kendall Smith was when our district went up to the Oregon border. When I represented Yolo County last time, if you remember, it was Yolo, Napa, Lake, a little piece of Sonoma, Mendocino, Humboldt, and Del Norte. Well, Kendall Smith was my aide in Mendocino, and she went on to run for the Board of Supervisors in Mendocino and served there. The other thing I do, and I have for years, and just recently it's become a joint endeavor with Cecilia Aguilar Curry, but I have a student leadership council, and it's open to high school students, and it's pretty amazing. A whole bunch of young student leaders sign up for this, and now with the district spread out as much as it is, it's a commitment on their part to get to all the different places because we move it around in the different counties. We bring guest speakers in from the public sector, from the private sector, from the nonprofit sector. They work with these young people. The young leaders do a graduation project that they put together themselves. This year it was a town hall meeting, and we had it, I think it was last weekend at UC Davis, and it was pretty cool because they invited to this town hall meeting and their graduation, because they get a little graduation deal, and which goes on their resume, which is helpful. But they invited the UC Davis Democrats, and so it was good to see the high school young leaders with the college young leaders, and I think that's the sort of thing we need to do.
That's really wonderful. I'm gonna pivot back to the big bill. Another audience.
We're calling that one big ugly bill now. We don't do the beautiful.
Not the beautiful bill. BUB is the new acronym for it, I guess. So an audience member asked, the White House is running TV ads in favor of their big bill. Why are there no ads against it? So basically speaking to marketing.
Yeah, I don't know what the public advertising will be, and I suspect there will be some. And I think probably the strategy is now that it's going to the Senate. And the Senate doesn't seem to be as lockstep on this one big ugly bill as the House was. I was telling someone today that on the green energy stuff that they took out, there was a Republican member of the Ways and Means Committee who has a project in his district, listen to this, a $6 billion manufacturing project in his district. He voted to do away with that project when he voted for this bill. And when he was asked later on that why he did it, the press asked him, they said, you have a $6 billion project, you voted against it, why? And he said, well, I'm hopeful that the Senate will fix it. Now, I think a lot of you know me well enough that if there was a $6,000 attack on Woodland, Davis, Napa, St. Helena, I'd go to bat for that. You don't just roll over and say, well, I'm going to vote for that because that president said we got to vote for this. You got to stand up for your district. It's incredibly important. So I suspect you're going to see a lot of ads in this particular person's state. You'll probably see ads featuring that $6 billion manufacturing facility and how those senators need to deal with that. And you'll see the same all over, I suspect. And the other thing that you should keep in mind, especially when you're listening to this guy saying, I hope the Senate fixes it, most of the Senate opposition to this bill is because it doesn't cut enough. So you've had Josh Hawley, the Republican from Missouri, has spoken out against the Medicaid cuts. And Missouri is one of those states that they're heavily dependent upon Medicaid. And so he's spoken out against that, but most of these guys are saying it doesn't cut enough. And I'll just leave you with one other thought too. Because a lot of folks are critical of our state. And you'll hear it a lot. Well, this is just like, that liberal California, they're ruining everything, notwithstanding the fact that we're the fourth largest, through our country, we're the fourth largest economic country in the world. But just think about this. If you take all the tax money that California taxpayers send to Washington, D.C., and then you subtract from that what we get back. And it would make no sense to get everything we send back. I mean, that's not how the tax system works. We all put in, we spread it around. That's how you create a responsible and a livable society. But if you take what we send, subtract what we get back, the amount of money we leave on the table in Washington to go to all these red states is more than the state budget in 47 other states. So we're paying the freight for a lot of these people who voted against programs that are important to all of us in this room.
That's a big number. When you really think about it, California is, our GDP, I think, is, like you said, a number of, like the fourth in the world. So don't fact check me on that. And then just speaking on, media and media independence. The administration has altered, obviously, I think about a few weeks ago, press access for certain media organizations and adjusted federal funding for NPR, PBS, Voice of America, which are all sources of public news, education, and international reporting. Locally, Sacramento's PBS station, KVIE, is projected to experience a funding reduction of over $2 million. What is your perspective on these changes, and what steps have you and your colleagues taken or plan to take regarding funding for public media?
Well, number one, I think it's terribly dangerous. I think public broadcasting is important. It's extremely important for rural areas because when you need information, if you don't have access to commercial information providers, you can always go to PBS. So if there's a fire, there's an earthquake, a mudslide, whatever, you'll be able to get your information from them. So it's important from that perspective. And you can't be a free society unless you have access to free information. And that's what PBS provides. You don't have to pay anybody for it, you don't have to buy anything for it, you can get that information. This is as important as library services. So I'm against that. I will vote against it every time. I have voted against it many times in the past, and I am in full support of the lawsuits that were filed today to stop that from happening.
That's good to know that a lawsuit has been filed. Another thing you've opposed in the past, the House of Representatives recently passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which is supported by the current administration and could become law if approved by the Senate. The League of Women Voters warns that it may create barriers to voter registration without enhancing election security. You voted against the bill in both 2024 and 25. Could you share your reasons for opposing it? And how would this affect the voters in counties like ours?
Well, I voted against it for the exact same reason the League of Women Voters opposes the bill. It's going to make it harder for people to register to vote. It's going to make it harder for people to vote. We should be doing everything we can to make it easy for people to vote. There's no indication that there's any widespread voter fraud going on. Every time that there's been allegations, every time it's been disproven and debunked. And that doesn't mean that your great aunt didn't vote after she died, or and I'm sure there's examples of one here or one there, but there's no widespread voter fraud going on. And that's, as I said, it's been debunked every time. But a woman who gets married and changes her name may not be able to vote because of that name change. Everybody doesn't have access to passports. Everybody doesn't have access to their birth certificate. So it's very clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it more difficult for people to be able to cast their vote. And I think we should all be outspoken against that. Thank you to the league for opposing that.
Our next question also comes from the audience and is regarding foreign policy. So what is your perspective on Congress addressing sanctions on Russia regarding Ukraine? Just if you could speak on your perspectives around that.
Well, I'm all for it. I think we should be doing everything we can to help Ukraine. Ukraine is a democracy. Ukraine is an ally. Russia launched an unprovoked criminal attack on that country. They mercilessly killed civilians, and Putin is a bully and a criminal. And we should be standing with them to make sure that this doesn't go forward. And we got this promise in the campaign that if this guy were elected, he'd stop the war on day one. And as we know, not only has he not stopped it, but this great relationship he has, he's got this bromance going on with Putin, and it's not working. Putin has just snubbed him at every juncture. And I think we need to step up and be the type of ally that we'd like to have if we're in a similar position with our Ukrainian friends. And it has a real impact on us right here in the county. I think it's 50% of the sunflower population production in our district used to go to Ukraine in seeds, because they have a big sunflower crop there. And so if you're a sunflower seed producer in Yolo or Solano County, you probably lost 50% of your market share. That pales in comparison with the death and the devastation that they're delivering. But I think it just shows that we're connected in more ways than one. And interestingly, I met today with a group in Davis who are pro-Ukraine, friends of Ukraine. And the neatest thing about it was they had with them a young man who's a student in Davis, who is part of their organization. And when he was in high school, and I think it was Barcelona, Spain, is where he was living, when Russia attacked Ukraine, he decided he was going to do something about it. And he and another young high school student rode their bike from Barcelona to Ukraine, bicycles, and a fundraising effort. They raised $20,000 to go to Ukraine emergency relief. His friend went back. He stayed. And he helped with food and helped with medical, and he's been engaged ever since. And it was pretty cool to meet with him, and I would hope that we have a lot more people doing the same sort of thing.
The youth of today and tomorrow is really inspiring, and he fits right in with Davis with the biking, so that's great.
He's talking about doing a bike ride to raise awareness, so I challenge you all now to get ready, get on the bike, get in shape, to join him.
The same kind of question kind of applies to the other conflict that's going on. What can be applied towards the resolution or cessation of the Israeli-Gaza conflict?
Very timely. I believe that we need to have a negotiated ceasefire. We need to stop the conflict. All the hostages need to be released, and we need to step up our efforts going forward to create a peaceful two-state solution. And again, this was the same deal. This guy said, Biden messed it up. I'm going to go in there and end this thing in a day. It's gotten worse. And we know that the ceasefire that Biden did negotiate was violated and stopped. We also know that Netanyahu has an interest in not ending this too soon for his personal and political reasons. And we need a very strong president in this country to put the pressure on to make sure that we do negotiate the ceasefire, that we keep the ceasefire, we provide humanitarian aid to the Palestinians, and that we get the prisoners, hostages released, and we figure out how to move forward peacefully.
And do you
Why are we
think,
spending money to help them, Mike? Why are we spending money to help the Israelis kill kids? It's wrong.
we are going to take comments just written, but thank you for your comment. I do want to say, how do you think, or how could we learn maybe perhaps from, recently there was a terrorist attack in Kashmir, and that conflict led to a ceasefire quite quickly. Is there any strategies from there that we can maybe perhaps apply?
I think it's going to have to be a very strong position from this administration if we're going to get there, because as I said, it's not in Netanyahu's personal benefit to be able to do this.
The next question I have for you, Congressman, is what is your approach and that of your colleagues to address the concerns about the scope of executive authority that's happening with our administration currently?
Well, as I said, much of what he claims to do, he can't do. So when he does something that is illegal, he needs to be challenged. He needs to, and we have this incredible legal team that's been launching all of these lawsuits. That needs to happen. He needs to be called out. We can't be wallflowers. We need to raise this issue, make sure everybody knows about it. And not only does that notify the voters as to what he's doing that he shouldn't be doing, but it also creates a record. And at some point, that record is going to become very, very important. And then again, a lot of what he does is just to make our heads explode. And I'll go back to the Department of Education. He didn't end the Department of Education. It's still there, and it's going to be there unless it's ended with congressional action and a presidential signature. And that may be forthcoming, but as of right now, it's not. But at the same time, he can do just terrible things in how he runs that department, how he staffs that department, and those are the things that we need to speak up about.
That's insightful. Another question, these are going to be kind of our final questions for the evening, before your closing remarks, if you would like to say those. What methods do you believe are the most effective for citizens and residents to advocate for their needs and priorities?
Well, I know a lot of people are concerned, frightened, upset. Can I say pissed off, or is that? You get the idea.
Free speech.
And I feel the same way. It makes me furious at some of these things that he's doing. He's eroding the institution of representative government. And I have, from the day I was elected, my personal priority has always been to ensure the institution of representative government is stronger when I leave than when I got here. It is important. It's what makes us the great country that we are. So I understand why people are upset. And people who aren't going to be impacted personally by these things are upset, and you should be. And people want to know what to do. And there's a bunch of things you can do. You get involved in the community, and there's a million things going on in every community. Food banks are taking a hit. They need people to help. This Ukrainian group is out soliciting volunteers. You work with them, and there's just a million things that you can do. I've been very, very involved in all of the protests and marches. I've made a gazillion speeches. We've had some great protests. We had a whole day of them here a few weeks ago. I started out at the square in the town of Sonoma with 1,000 people at 9 o'clock in the morning showed up. And from there I went to Napa, to the courthouse steps, and there were over 2,000 people in Napa that morning. Then I went to the Veterans Home in Yountville, and the veterans in the Veterans Home put on their own rally. It wasn't as big, about 300 people, but I would go out on the limb here and say 300 people of the veterans of the Veterans Home is as impressive as 2,000 people in Napa Courthouse steps. And then I ended up by going to the square in Santa Rosa and spoke to a group of over 5,000 people. So, you know, people are engaged, they're joining groups, they're getting involved. I have convened a regular meeting with all of the Democratic groups in our 5-county district, and we have launched a program to adopt a district. And there's two types of districts that we're looking at. One are called frontline districts, and that's congressional districts represented by a Democrat, and it's a district that can go either way, Democrat or Republican. So it's important to keep them there. And the other one, they're called red to blue. So they're currently red districts, but they could go either way, and we could flip those districts and make those Democratic districts. So the 4th Congressional District Democratic groups are adopting red to blue and frontline districts. And they're working with their organizations in those districts and with the incumbent or the candidate in those districts to either flip it or to maintain it as a Democratic district. And I mentioned to someone earlier, we're working on, and it's still early, and it will come to fruition, and I'm not quite sure when, but in the not too distant future, doing an unofficial town hall meeting. All the town hall meetings that I've held so far are on the official side, but I'm going to do one on the unofficial or campaign side that will be an organizing town hall. We'll probably do 3 of them in the district and bring all the groups that are working from a political perspective to the town hall, let them explain what they're doing, solicit volunteers, get people signed up to do different things.
Wonderful, and I'm sure all that information will be on your website as well. You know, to keep the integrity of our democratic nation, I feel this administration will have to work across party lines, right? So what strategies are you using to engage with members of other parties to advance your legislative goals and ensure the needs of your district are considered?
Well, I don't think it's any secret that I have a pretty good reputation for being able to work across party lines. And I think it's important. If we're going to do big things in the Congress of the United States of America, I think they need to be done on a bipartisan basis. If not, every time that there's a majority change, it all goes away. So I think that's very, very important. They do a ranking of bipartisanship, and I always rank real high. Always I'm in the top 3 of the most bipartisan member from California, and in the high 20s, low 30s as far as being bipartisan across the country. And I'm pretty proud of that because I've been able to get a lot of bills signed into law, and you have to be able to work in a bipartisan way. In one of my early town hall meetings, when people were really, really upset about what was going on, there was one person who was very critical about me working across the aisle, and that's got to stop. It's got to stop. You need to be more defiant. And I said, well, I said, there's a lot of people in our district that lost their homes and their businesses in the Tubbs fire. And she said, I was one of them, I know. I said, well, then you also know that if you were part of that PG&E settlement, you had to pay taxes on all the money that you got from the settlement that wasn't enough to rebuild your house. I know, I was one of those. I said, well, then you know that it was me working in a bipartisan way that got that tax liability removed at the cost of $550 million. So I think you would be appreciative that I was able to work across party lines, and they took a little different understanding of it based on that. So I think it's important, but I also think it's important when these people are doing the terrible things they're doing now, you've got to be very outspoken. And I think you can be bipartisan in getting things done, and also be full of fight to make sure you stop bad things from happening.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We are running out of time because I did not see the last time check. Would you like to share any closing remarks?
Just thank you very much for caring enough to be here. Know that I'll be in this fight with you from the beginning to the end. And it's important that we prevail. I think our democracy depends on it, our republic depends on it, and our society depends on it. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thanks for caring. And if I can be of help, you know, I have an office right here in Woodland. Lucy and Will are both here. They're from the office, and I'm a phone call away. So thanks so much, and thank you to the League of Women Voters.
Thank you. Please join me in a round of applause. And I know you have a tight deadline, so if you wanted to head out, Kathleen will just have a few closing remarks, but if you wanted to, I know Lucy, if you need to whisk him away, that's totally fine.
We just want to thank Como and Congressman Thompson for a great conversation. We appreciate you. And we'd like to thank Dale Dennis and his crew from Woodland TV for broadcasting and recording today's event. A recording will be available online at the League of Women Voters of Yolo County website, lwvyolo.org, or search directly at woodlandtv.org. We also thank the City of Woodland and the staff of this beautiful community and senior center for the use of this facility. And thank you to the many members of our Yolo County League who made this event possible. They worked really hard. Also, I wanted to thank you again, Congressman Thompson, for coming and speaking to us today, and your staff has been very helpful. And to contact Congressman Thompson, call his local representative at the Woodland office or go to his website at mikethompson.house.gov, where you can also sign up for his newsletter. And lastly, thank you to our Woodland audience and online viewers for your respectful attention and thoughtful questions. Your informed participation plays a vital role in sustaining a healthy democracy. Along with events like this and our candidate forums, the League of Women Voters provides print and online resources to help voters make informed choices, such as the Easy Voter Guide, nonpartisan pros and cons on state propositions, and vote411.org for candidate and local ballot information. To learn more about your local League of Women Voters of Yolo County, please visit our website at lwvyolo.org. And on your way out, stop by our table in the hallway for voter information and materials provided by the League. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
I also want to say thank you. Law enforcement's here. We have police in the back. We have sheriff here in the front. And these are the folks who put on a uniform every day to make sure our communities are safe. And thank you all for being cops.